All right, so let's see how this is working. Looks like I've got audio, correct headset. Gary is on his way in, allegedly. I could open the room up at some point, but no hurry for that. Hey, Gary. So I didn't publish obviously the link.
Could be a new post.
Good. Excellent. I'm glad you didn't.
Sure.
Sorry, checking my volume.
No problem.
I don't know if you're louder than me, but I guess we'll not worry about that because everything's.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty funny. You never
Yeah.
anybody before on YouTube.
Not on YouTube, not since they moved that shit around about 3 years ago. Yeah, people sometimes say go check it, but
Well, that's pretty hilarious.
yeah.
Like, I got $1 million and I got cancer, and I was just thinking, who else?
Give it to you.
Oh, yeah. So, let me know in the next month.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time I missed out something like that. So, I just stopped working and I'm having a beer because I get to at the end of the week, which just counts. So I was going to make a video, but yeah, I wanted to talk to you again. I mean, I think we'll see if how it works out, but I mean, I think it's worth keeping up with what's going on. It's kind of weird. So I have this mix of stuff, which is one is just like I think it'd be cool to whatever, if you have an update of like this week in politics or whatever, that as stuff comes along, I have some issues that include some things like that, because that's kind of what I was about to make a video on when I PM'd you or whatever. So
yeah, I'm kind of the whole thing bothers me a little because since Trump has won, there's been so little conversation. Like all of the research into Trump seems to have stopped. And yeah, they're talking a little bit about, well, okay, this guy said a few racial things, his administration that he's forming.
yeah.
But it's like everything just kind of stopped on investigating all the other crap that we already know Trump's guilty of. Okay, they settled the lawsuit, but I mean, there's still a ton of facts, about that whole Trump University.
And there's like 19 other cases, I think, pending on him, right?
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, so there's a whole lot of crap, and I want the tax return, motherfuckers, okay? I mean, I don't want them to let that go, okay?
And they haven't even mentioned it.
It really pisses me off that he's getting away with having these, like, presidents can have entangled business interests. There's nothing in the Constitution. I mean, these are almost outrageous statements, that he thinks he's allowed to have entangled personal business interests, and we're not allowed to know about them.
Right. And so this is the thing, though, too, is that while he is exempt from those laws forcing him to do these things where he avoids, right, a blind trust, he's not forced to do things like that, whereas I guess the cabinet is, it's still illegal for him to make a decision that profits his businesses if they can prove, that's the reason. That is illegal. That is on the law. So I mean,
it's even disgusting that they have to resort to what is legal, because we know what's traditional. We know what every president has conceded is reasonable invasions of their privacy by the public. And, this guy's got the nuclear fucking codes, right? He shouldn't, you don't get that in exchange for nothing. And it just seems like it's so bogus. Well, anyway, I just find it a little. I mean, I knew the media was going to do this.
Well, that's the scary thing
I knew they'd all jump on he's the president now, so blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, that's exactly what they're going to do. And that's a huge problem. But it's the only opportunity out of this. And that's the sad thing. The whole idea that we'll rise up and have a revolution. Well, you have CNN acting all shocked about this as if they didn't help him. As if, why didn't we hear more about those other 20 cases? Why didn't we have more fact checking? They started to challenge some things that were said, and they got all proud of themselves. But the bar that they do that at is so way over there that they helped Trump win. That's pretty obvious. And whether unwitting or however you want to say that came out, and now they're going to do the thing where you're the president. We have material reasons to not want to lose access. Plus, this always blew me away that, you know, Trump suing people and never winning, it works. During this campaign, I've seen so many interviews and with journalists especially, you know, that, you know, they had a story, they couldn't run it because, you know, the New Yorker was worried about getting sued. It has to be worth something because that actually works, that harassing everybody. And he does that, and it works really good in politics. And he's setting up this patronage. So just to finish, the thing, we have to look at what's illegal because we got to assume he's going to push his luck. And if he could get away with doing something illegal, he will. So somebody's going to have to be watching that legality line, because I have a feeling that's where, you know, he's going to push it way past there. We have to be watching so that when that breaks, and you know, we can't rely on the press, the CNN type press anyway. There might be online.
Well, you can't rely on anything really, because the only thing you had as any kind of safety valve would have been a more hostile Congress. But the fact that it's full of the worst kinds of Republicans, like I said, these aren't even bad Republicans. These are evil Republicans. I mean, these are the shysters of the Republic. I mean, these are like, you know, it's like having an evangelical religious. I mean, they're just all crooks. And that's all the Congress is full of now. It's fucking.
Yeah, and the 2/3 of the Democrats are like the old Bob Dole Republicans. So they actually want half this shit, like the surveillance state. I mean, that's the thing. I couldn't give a shit about them making money off of speeches, but the thing of Obama and Clinton as part of this and their attitude, they, instead of shutting down this surveillance state, you know, the NSA watching us stuff, instead of stopping torture, this is their ultimate corruption. They're like, no, we want that power. We're willing to risk knowing that that's going to go to another W at least, or a Romney at least. They're willing to do that and let it go to a Trump rather than give it up. That presidency, that 8 years was enough to dismantle that and make it hard to start up again, right? Because then you get a Trump, he wants to start spying. He'd have to hire people. Right now, you just do a memo, hey, double everything. And they've handed that right the fuck over to him. And that's the same thing about the criminality. He's going to know. You know, in 4 years when he runs, he's going to have read all of the Democrats' email, right? He's going to have read all of the reporters' emails.
Worse, he's going to have access to, all the dossiers on every other rich man in the world. I mean, he's going to have all this dirt.
Well, that's our only hope, really, right? Is that he's going to pitch off the other billionaires.
Well, I'm just saying that
really?
he's got all this stuff to use it, you know, that he'll take that insider information and no doubt use it. And that's, you know, that's insider trading essentially, you know. I mean, he's that corrupt, and the fact that there is nothing to prevent him from doing all this crap. Like I said, the fact that he was allowed to run, a guy who has no qualifications, hasn't spent one day doing anything in the public interest, and we fucking elect him president of the United States. I mean, this is the most irresponsible act of fucking government. I mean, it's just you might as well dismantle the whole fucking thing if you're going to put idiots like this in charge, because the system can't handle it. There's nothing in the system to account for a lunatic being president. We don't have a backup plan.
Well, I guess we'll see. I mean, I might not be quite as, I mean, I think we do have some checks that may come into play, but it's not really our system. So maybe you're right. But, you know, the fact that he has enemies in the Republican Party is kind of one of the ingredients of maybe the law will be used.
He doesn't have enemies. He doesn't have enemies in the Republican Party. I mean, that's. Oh no, he does. They're not enemies on the real subjects, which are going to be, hey, can we drive wages lower? Yes, we can.
Well, no, but that's what I was saying about these other billionaires. If he tries to rob all of their candy baskets, then those enemies become real.
He's not going to do that tomorrow. I'm just saying that's the corruption of this, is that he's getting a huge pile of information for his family to use for decades. You know, that's the abuse here, because this guy is a crook. He is a criminal. He's not going to have any integrity about what he has learned through the FBI, you know. What the crap he's brought to his table. We don't get to know that, right? He can, like, it's the first day he's president. He could probably order up right now. He can just sit there and read FBI dossiers all day long. And the fact is, like I said, there's no check against this, because the only thing we had as a check was the fact that we were supposed to elect presidents who had a little bit of integrity, and we elected a compulsive liar who has demonstrated nothing but being a self-interested, egomaniacal, crazy lunatic. And the only subject he spoke any kind of rationality on was, yeah, it's not good to have too many illegals in your country. And that's it. He had no other fucking subject.
Yeah, well, I guess the NAFTA thing is related to that, and the
Well,
infrastructure
yeah,
thing.
the NAFTA thing is just a
different.
silly word, right? Yeah, I mean, the fact.
Well, it's related. The NAFTA thing is.
Well, I mean, Hillary
related to.
should have been smart enough to know that she needed to fix that. She needed to say something about immigration. She needed to say something about NAFTA. And
Well, that's the thing too. She wasn't just.
The simple
Yeah.
response on NAFTA is that, look, you could have done it the bad way. Okay, we could have lost the jobs without us getting anything, which is without a trade agreement, we get nothing. We get no guarantee that our investments secure, and we get no bargains regarding them buying our products. So we get nothing without a trade agreement. And so it would have happened anyway. If you think the jobs...
Yeah, she could have ignored NAFTA if she'd had any pro-worker thing to say at all.
She could have said just clearly that, look, the jobs go overseas because the wages are cheaper, and I can't fix that as president. As president, I can't make the Chinese pay their employees more money. I can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think there would be even simpler things. She could have not explained the complexity of that and done almost anything else for pro working class. I mean, she made no. The thing is, she's not just a bad speaker. Like, people act like, well, when you talk, she doesn't woo you like those other. No, she's, like I said this last time, she is a bad general. She's a bad. Her strategy's bad. She has no idea of what, and it bothers me too. I work in this data. I've been working a lot in this data. It's great stuff. And then people like this that thought they would just go get some computers and algorithms and some college grads, and that was going to tell them who was going to vote. Whereas on the street, the people that are on the street going door to door on election day, they were being sent to Trump supporters' houses because the campaign hadn't actually identified who their voters were. So they got their other people out to vote because they were identified as.
There's nobody who's really professional in any of this stuff, because another truth that's just glaring to me was we know when what's his face, Clinton's vice president, Gore, when Gore lost, right? He was 5% ahead in the polls. Okay, so it was exactly the same situation. Mm-hmm. So we should have known that 5% ahead means you're dead even. Okay, so that was another one of the lies. Why did we learn that lesson? There's never been a Democrat who has who has won more than the poll said. It's always come in less. I think you could probably take that all the way back to Carter. It's always seemed like they had more support than they did, and that was one of the sources of the liberal bias. So why was anybody believing the polls when they went to 5%? I mean, after Trump's big, grab by the pussy, yeah, it went to like 12%. Usually, but 4 days later, it was back to 5% again. So that was the margin was known, and what needed to happen was all these people, instead of talking about Hillary, they should have just kept talking about Donald Trump is insane. You can't make him president.
Yeah, I think it comes back to the whole magical thinking thing of the theist debate and a lot of our debates. It's not the fact that it's not just Dick Cheney saying they're going to welcome us as liberators. It's at least as bad in the Democratic Party establishment of these non-liberal DLC Clinton era Democrats, because I saw the same thing when it was like, when he did the Pussygate thing and it was behind by 12 points, they acted like, oh, nobody's ever come back when they were this far behind, this far in front of the election. And it's, but the polls have never gone up and down 10 points every other week either. You know what I mean? What about your noise and signal? Where's your mathematicians? That's not.
Exactly, so they're just. So the real. I'm just saying.
They're supposedly hiring mathematicians, right, from colleges that know how to do the math. They still have magical things. The only way to explain it. It's not like they don't know.
Well, I just mean that obviously they don't know, in the sense it doesn't get filtered to the people that need to be talking about it. And they need to be informing people that this 5% number doesn't mean anything.
Right, but I think they do know, in the sense that if it was the other way around, they'd go, oh, yeah, but the polls, they know, and then they block it out because in their head it's impossible, and they just go with their magic ideas. And the other thing, though, is I was even wondering, you know how they always said Trump may just be in there as a Trojan horse to get Hillary to win? Knowing the Clintons, it could have been the other way around. Here's $500 million, Hillary. And guess what? I will pass TPP to the X squared.
Yeah, well, I doubt it, just because, you know.
No, I don't think so either. But in the way they tried was so not actually hard. They just spent a lot of money and didn't try hard. They were lazy.
Well, I don't know if that's the right accusation. I just don't think they didn't tag the subject of the election, and they pretended they could talk about all this other crap and that somebody gave a shit. And no, it was the economy stupid in the sense that we don't have one. And you're going to have to explain where we're going to get one, because that's what Donald Trump's talking about when he says make America great again. He's talking about a different economy. He's not talking about America great again because we wore bigger collars on our shirts. But, you know, this is, you know, the Trump thing, just, you know, the one thing he did, right? Okay, so he does a good thing in the sense he says, oh, I have wised up on torture. Now, you're a 70-year-old motherfucking man. Right, and he hasn't figured out, he's, you know, because he's totally backed off on his torture thing, because some general told me a story about giving some prisoners
cigarettes.
Yeah, give him some beer and cigarettes, and that works just as good as torture. Who knew?
I heard.
Who knew?
Yeah.
I'm 70 years old, and
yeah,
I've had opinions on stuff. I was going to torture the fuckers. I mean, if I didn't have that fucking conversation, I would have been torturing people. Holy shit. I mean, isn't this outrageous? He's 70 fucking years old and he doesn't know right from wrong. He really doesn't.
No.
He's going to change his mind based on what politically they told him. And the general didn't tell him a beer story. You know what the general told him? Is that our people are going to get tortured overseas if you open your mouth and say torture's okay, you dumb fuck. We got CIA agents right now that are being held, you stupid fuck. Do you want to get them tortured, you dumbass? So that's what a general told them, is that you're an irresponsible jackass for talking about torturing people, you dumb fuck.
He had the same kind of, I never thought of that quote out of that. It's the same article interview where, you know, or maybe it was a different one, or no, he was saying someone else. It was similar. He was telling somebody else had told him something he'd never thought about before, which is if he opens up the libel laws, he's going to get sued for libel. A lot, you know. He's like, don't you think you might get sued? He's like, I never thought of that. It's like, yeah, you talk a lot of shit, motherfucker.
This is going to be so bad because Donald Trump is not going to even, can you imagine him even giving an hour-long State of the Union speech? I mean, Donald Trump can't do that. There's no way Donald Trump could give a speech with any kind of sincerity, right? So he's just going to be reading his teleprompter, which he says nobody's supposed to be using. But anyway, and he does that so badly. So it's just that's going to be a disaster. They'll be fun to watch. But can you, you know, he's not going to do press conferences, right? I mean, you know that's going to go so bad, so fast.
Yeah,
you know,
that's how
he's basically going to say, no, only the Enquirer magazine and, you know, maybe that British, you know, publication with the girls with the naked boobs. Yeah, those two magazines can ask me questions, but nobody else.
Yeah, so this is the interesting thing. So there's been presidents like this before, and like W was kind of like this. Not a lot of, but it ends up happening sometimes. It has to happen. There is a point at where the pressure of not doing it, you look like a loser. And yet the thing is, George Bush had a way of not necessarily answering the question, but sort of deflecting his way through those. And I see Trump, unless he's different than he was, those White House reporters, I think, will try to needle him. And he won't be, you know, because W had the kind of thing of sort of, yeah, whatever. And Trump has sort of a thing of like, what? Oh, I don't know about that. I'm going to talk about that. That could be really entertaining as well. But I imagine they'll just avoid him. But, you know, I mean, there's no reason he has to have any, except for there is a lot of pressure to, you know, have one or two a year.
I just don't know how he's going to avoid them, especially when he's doing all this controversial crap. So,
well, how do you avoid separating your business for conflict of interest? Just don't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a new thing. Unless he's literally forced by law to do something. This is a guy that's definitely, well, I'm going to have my lawyers to look at what the law really says for billionaires. You know, what's the actual letter, not that intent thing.
I guess
so
there'll be some point though where even the Trump defenders will say, you know, he's got to answer some questions.
yeah, no, and it'll make him look like a loser. Definitely, you know, doing too much, it makes you look scared. And so I think he probably will get out there, and it should be interesting. Um, you know, what I'm wondering is because he's okay. I'm not gonna arrest Hillary. Okay, I'm not. That's the wall, schmall, whatever. And you know, at what point are his backers, you know, going to say, "Oh, yeah, he's just like the rest of them with the fake promises," or are they? Is there a fandom there where they'll just make up an excuse
Well,
why
I don't think
perfectly fine to be liberal now that
I don't
Trump
think
is?
they care about any other subject than the fact that they don't want Islamic lunatics in our country. So this, I think the subject's that simple. So if Trump at least follows up on, you know, profiling the Islamic immigrants, they'll be happy. He can fuck up everything else, but as long as he
Just
keeps
that he just has to endorse profiling, no registry, no.
a registry, no, you know, in the sense that he's not going to let them in. You know what I mean? He can't.
So what? But to get what I'm asking,
profile them. I'm just saying, there's all the profile is just going to be you can't come in because you're Islamic.
you think that he will do that and that'll be enough? And if he didn't do that, you think his, you know, his white supremacist supporters specifically would turn on him? I mean, what point would they turn on him?
No, that will be a critical one. If he doesn't, the Islam.
But why isn't the wall?
That's number one. Islam is number one, and Mexico's number two. Okay, so if he doesn't do anything on those two subjects, then he's dead. Dead.
But I mean, after talking about this big wall and they'll pay for it, you think he'll get away in their eyes with a fence, or basically what Hillary wanted to do?
I don't care. Yeah, well, we know. Look, from my perspective, a wall would be just ludicrous. So if you're going to bother doing it, you might as well make it a fence because both of them are just as easily crossed. It doesn't really make a difference to the person crossing it, whether it's a wall or a fence.
No. But I'm just trying to figure out, you know, different people have different kinds of followers, you know.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have to make a rational argument for how
specifically the KKK
exactly the wall is going to work and how he's going to finance it and what he's going to do. Is he going to have robots shooting the Mexicans? Because we all know we don't want to pay for soldiers on the wall, right? So, you know, how's your wall going to be effective if somebody can catapult themselves over it?
Well, see, that's an interesting idea. Is what if he just sells them on a better idea? Like, yeah, we're not going to do a wall. That wouldn't work. They could catapult. Somebody was telling me on internet they could catapult Gary. But we're going to have robots. We're going to have robot dogs. And, you know, and just push it down the lane. You know, how much would they... If he says...
I can see him selling that. I'm just saying, if he said we're going to put robo-cops on the wall to shoot the Mexicans, everybody would say, great, because they don't care, you know, Mexicans.
I think you're right. I've probably anything, if he could figure out a way to say, because I still hate Mexicans, or, you know, I mean, it's more hyperbolic than the way he puts it exactly. As long as he can end with that vibe, there's a good chance he could get away with whatever his explanation about how they're going to do something and it's going to be even better, or how they won't let us do it. We're going to have to do it next quarter.
Yeah. You could just say, like, we're going to make a deal with General Motors and we're going to test drive General Motors cars, you know, on a track across the Mexican border, and we're just going to run over the illegals as they try to cross the road. You see,
right?
So when they cross the road, we'll and they say, kill two birds with one stone. You know, well, kill one Mexican and test a car. It'll be really cool.
There's this one guy who's some sort of a liberal, whatever. Quintica pointed me to him, and he's talking about give him a chance, and he can't actually be stupid because he got so rich. It's like, well, no, you can be stupid. There's some sort of savvy, I guess, that you didn't already, you know, lose it all or end up in the funny farm. And that's kind of what I've been trying to figure out. What really is his savvy? And I think this might be it. He might know that if he could come out with the same vibes, the people really don't care about the details at all. Even what detail is.
If you really analyze it, though, he hasn't made one. No, he's lost money. I mean, technically, he's lost money. Okay, I mean, because if he just got 10% a year, like I said, the New York real estate has gone up more than 10% a year over the last 50 years.
Yeah.
So if you just owned it, you didn't even run the business, right? You didn't even charge, like, you didn't even make rents and make profit. You know, for being a landlord. If you were a terrible landlord, just from the value of the properties increase, you would be making 10% a year. And in 40 years, $100 million is $5 billion.
Yeah. But this is the same problem we have as far as collaborators.
He'd be richer if he was in a coma for the last 40 years. He'd probably be richer than he is right now.
Yeah, no, but I didn't even go into that argument because to me, what it was about is, regardless, even if he had worked his way up from a bricklayer to, it doesn't
But
mean
that's better,
that.
though. Yes, if he did have that,
Oh, it'd be better. Yeah, no.
It would be better for me because I could at least say there's some hope that this man he is able to count to 15. We don't have evidence that Donald Trump has an IQ above 50. Really, where's the evidence that Donald Trump could do anything, like any contest? We could have a contest with 50 retards in a room and Donald Trump, and there's no guarantee that he won't beat them at anything.
Yeah, no, I agree. The thing is, though, is there's really two aspects of this. Okay, one, I'm concerned about liberals that even think that way, even if it was the kind of billionaire that, yeah, it proved he knew some things, because they are the collaborators and they want to roll over and they're going to believe some very non-liberal idea like, well, he's rich, he's got to be fairly smart, don't worry too much, he's rich, rich guys will never steal from you, for example, I'm not scared, no hoodies, you know. And the second thing, though, is about this election. Ben Carson no longer does brain surgeon. I'm not a brain surgeon, you know. That does, I mean, look how stupid you can be. And he really is a brain surgeon that was accomplished. I went looking for that early on. This must be a lie. He just got a degree and he's been writing books about it. No, fucker's an actual brain surgeon. And he's like retarded, he comes across. So it shows you, intelligence. So if Trump was smart at something, I would guess it's rolling a big fat spliff around a lie. You can't even comb his hair, for fuck's sake. I mean, you can't do anything right. Somebody dresses him, you know that. I mean, well, anyway, just doesn't matter. I never thought a brain surgeon would have good politics. Quite the opposite with doctors and stuff, or be able to fix a car. Never learned it, but I still can't wrap my head around how crazy that motherfucker is.
Those are really impossible because it's just like, how can you know all that science?
Maybe he used to be smart and he had some sort of brain damage. Maybe this is why he's not a brain surgeon anymore.
I think it's more like,
no, because they have those old clips. He's always this stupid.
Yeah, I think it's an idiot savant thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is an idiot savant thing, for sure.
It's like an idiot savant, and so he can only do things that are like, he could play chess and he could do mechanical things and have a drawing, but if he has to actually think and be imaginative, like he could never draw a picture. Like if you asked him to draw a picture of a flower, he probably can't do it because he has no imagination. You know?
Yeah, I suppose that's true. And the kind of medicine he was in is a lot like a mathematics or something, this whole other realm where you can be a genius in it and not get the world.
Yeah. I mean, all you're doing is reacting to what you know where you're trying to go, and you just go there by the rules, And so it's a really rule-bound thing, surgery, right? It's all about what you've learned the rules.
Yeah, even if you're doing research or something, you're just implying from the rules.
And you're just an emergency. Yeah.
You can speak you back there. The camera points right back there if you think you're being all hidden. Okay, I'll have it. Don't shake it up. Well, is there anything you would give him credit for?
Yeah, more booze. Yeah. Feed him booze. Yeah, so he shuts him up.
High.
Yeah. Get him unconscious so you don't have to listen to him.
That's right. Well, it's only my second beer. You don't have to worry about that yet. But is there anything you would give credit for? Like him being, if not smart wasn't the right word, like, well, he knows how to put gold plating on things.
No, I just can't. No.
What about the whole marketing thing? Because I can't give that.
His taste is so gross. You ever see his? Yeah, you ever see his penthouse, right? And it's just so funny because he's so against the Islams, and it looks like he bought all his furniture from like the ex-Shah of Iran. It looks like the Shah of Iran's his chairs. Yep. It looks just, if you go find some old Shah of Iran pictures from the 70s, that's exactly
I know what you're talking about.
Penthouse looks like. Exactly the same.
So, or the Saudi royal apartments and stuff look that way. It's a kind of, I think it's an out of favor, gild everything look.
Yeah, but I just mean the style of it is just It is. It has.
No, I don't.
It isn't Western. You know, it isn't. You know, that old English kind of crap. It is definitely Middle Eastern, and
Especially, man.
you
I'll
know,
have to take a look at that.
yeah, it's just Shaw of Iran all over the place.
I want to look and say there must be something like, well, what about this branding? But then his stuff has been, none of it's really worked. It's really just owned some really big buildings and kept his name on it, and then happened to be a young guy, rich guy in the 80s when greed is good and they were looking for poster boys, and kind of like just got this lucky celebrity.
Well, it's like just you going on a talk show or something. You know what I mean? Say you're a celebrity and you get paid to go on a talk show, and it's good for you. It's good for them. You know what I'm saying? That's the deals he makes. You know, it's like they're just buying the fact that it's Trumpy. Okay, Trumpy brings some interest from people. It gets talked about in the newspaper because Trump did it.
He's there on a slow news day.
It's all these angles, and that's all it is. But it has nothing to do with anybody having real integrity or, you know, the quality product. It's not like the BMW label or something. It doesn't mean anything.
You don't even get the idea, like a lot of these rich guys that seem to have no skills, the skill they have is hanging out with other rich guys and getting to know them. And then, like you say, those deals come up where like, hey, I need someone to do this. Oh, okay. But he doesn't seem to have that either. I mean, he's personable and all that, but like Warren Buffett and all these other people that talk about his business, none of them really stand up for him as a real businessman.
You find that even is true, that cliche of doing the business on the golf course. That's what Trump does. You know, that he's big on that, you know.
Well, because that's how they do it, but he's got his little cadre, and it's not like he really you know, I mean, because he's rich enough, like he's got the $1 million in the pipeline stuff. He's got money all over because he's got money managers, and he gets in all the little greasy white water deals, you know, that you would have.
He doesn't do business with people already in business, so he's doing business with people who have gotten some venture capital to do something, and he screws them. So it's like he has people go out, find the neophytes, you know, find the guy trying to do something new, and we'll exploit the fuck out of him because we'll write a contract and we'll win.
He'll think it's worth doing at a loss because of or barely the bare margin doesn't know it's a loss yet. Yeah. Well, maybe that's his skill, not really paying, because drawing people in with the story and turning around and not fulfilling it. In which case, because the reason I'm thinking about this stuff is like, what will it take? How is he going to screw up with the people even that supported him? And maybe that's the way. Or maybe he won't. This is the question where we'll find out in the next 4 years if he's got some skill. Because you certainly don't skate on this water and not look like a loot. I mean, you know what I mean? It's not easy.
Well, I'm just saying it's easy
to seem cool while you do this.
Easy in one sense, in the sense that George Bush got away with everything, right? He got away with a fake war. He got away with having Colin Powell lie at the UN, and then he got reelected. Let's remember that. He got reelected after it was proven he was a liar. And, you know, let's remember Ronald Reagan's the most famous bullshitter of them all, right? I mean, an economic plan drawn on a fucking napkin, you know, voodoo economics, just complete bullshit, and, you know, no science behind it. And they just say, well, Kennedy did it, so it must work. And all Trump has to say is Reagan did it, so it must be good.
But don't you think, like, I feel like things are changing, you know, election by election, to the point that I don't think he has the same out that a W got. I think people are kind of on to, plus W got to still play, I'm stupid, that's why, and Trump is, I'm a genius.
I'm just saying that obviously Trump was obviously stupid, obviously vacuous. He didn't have a single idea. So I'm just saying, if that gets you elected, just think once the scrutiny's off, you know, once the pressure's not on anymore, this is going to be a cakewalk because these suckers will eat anything. He's right. He could shoot somebody in the middle of Times Square, and these assholes will say, well, yeah, he was coming right for you. Well, what else you gonna do? You know, I mean, it's a homeless man with a, you know, blind homeless man with a cup. He could be any kind of terrorist. He could have a bomb on him. You had to shoot him.
Well, you know how the Democratic Party, rather, especially reacts.
It's just kind of funny. The Democratic
Party is a test right now.
The funny thing is the Democratic Party was talking about how fucked up the Republican Party was because their candidates in the primary were so lunatic, right? So everybody's saying the Republican Party's dead. They can't produce a candidate, right? And it's really the Democratic Party that's dead because it's the fundamental elements of it are now they hate each other. You know what I'm saying? The progressive element really hates the welfare element, and the stupid new war element, of course, we don't even want them as part of us, right? Both elements are saying, fuck these war lunatics. Where'd you get this idea that we give a shit about having wars?
Right. So they're going to try to hold on to that. Pelosi thinks she should hold on to it. They're all going to try to hold on to it. If they succeed, then that's it. I'm done with them. And I know there's a lot of people that are more done with them than me. And the basic reason is because, look, when there are going to be Democrats and Republicans, and maybe the Republicans will become liberal, whatever. We know it's going to go back and forth. And if you have a surveillance spy state, you're giving that to the people that are your opponents. You're supposed to police each other, not not cover up for each other's crimes. The current Democrats are very into doing that, and that's just enough of that.
Yeah, that's not a huge issue for me because, I obviously don't care if somebody's surveilling. I'm surveilling me, so I don't give a damn. I'm not breaking the law most of the time.
Well, but okay, Gary, but because I should say then, because I use that as an example, and it's not just that you're being watched, whether even that's okay. It's more the police state nature of the fact that this is going with torture, the fact that this is going with using it for political reasons, that this is going for, corporate espionage. It's really this totalitarian aspect and the fact that they are going to torture. This torture state, the drone bombing that we can bomb dozens of countries at a time now that America doesn't even know or told, or it's not on the news. That is something that these Democrats, since Clinton, not McGovern or even Carter and stuff, but since Clinton, and they were not that liberal, all of them either, but since Clinton, they're collaborating in this state that is just a horrible thing. So it's true that to have the ship not sink for another 4 years isn't really worth steering in that particular direction. So I'm
just saying I don't think that's the biggest threat. The biggest threat is what I said, is this division of interest and the fact that the Democratic Party's coalition is broken, severely.
Yeah.
And it's going to have to, we really need to get away from the party politics and try to get to some kind of more representative government. I mean, now more than ever, we need, to be able to have an affirmative democracy, where you can't just steal somebody's vote because they're in a district, where you actually have to have a representative Congress or something, because this is really, I'm just saying this is
so
bad.
Far from getting rid of the parties, but we should definitely mobilize. The other thing about that is I noticed in political activism, and especially when I was younger and there was more, apartheid, various things were going on. The anti-war movement was the one thing that brought liberal coalitions together. You had your fairly conservative, non-feminist labor, you had feminists, you had the ecologists, the civil rights, everybody showed up. So having these pro-war Lieberman DLC Democrats, it's no wonder it's split up.
And the pro-capitalist ones. I mean, with those two elements in the Democratic Party now are dependent on them.
Right.
That's a non-starter for at least people like me. I mean, that's a progressive worst nightmare. We're the war and capitalism party. I'm sorry, I really can't join that. War and capitalism? Are you fucked up or what?
And those aren't selling points either. That's not. I mean, you can foment the world. You can foment people into a particular war, but running on the idea of war is trickier. Like if you are going to do it, you have to do it this Trump way of running on enemies, not on the war. Because it's very hard to sell a war. So I mean, no wonder.
The only war you can sell to a decent person is an ethical war.
No, I'm talking about Americans.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, though, you still got to sell it I think to a lot of people, the only way you're going to sell it is it has to be a war because you're going to accomplish some good, not for some graft. And it just seems our wars are all graft oriented. What's America's interest? And that's almost obscene. I mean, that just makes us into the, some kind of Great Britain or something, some kind of slave owning country. I mean, to think it's our right to take. I mean, Trump said that. I mean, these are things you're just saying. How can we elect a president who actually said that? We should go into Libya and just take the oil. I mean, that's his philosophy.
It wouldn't even be that simple, yeah. Or, I mean, I feel the same way about the, the kill their family.
Oh yeah, another brilliant statement. You're just like, what the fuck is he? What are you talking about? Collateral damage is okay. Yeah, pile it on. It hurts even more than the real damage. Killing little kids really works. So yeah, let's kill lots of their kids, and that'll really break them more. I mean,
I think a lot of it isn't going to matter with Trump because, like, I don't see Trump as wanting to know enough about some area of the world to start another war, unless maybe there's a deal and one government wants this to get that. He might do that, but it doesn't really matter because he's surrounding himself with the most far-right people in that fucking party.
He doesn't have to start one. We've got them already. We already have hot wars running.
He's supposed to stop those.
Well, I'm just saying that's going to keep him busy enough. I'm just saying he doesn't need to start one somewhere else. We're already at war with the Middle East, and I mean, look at how he talks about fucking Iran. He talks about like it's fucking North Korea. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, oh yeah, we can just tell Iran what the fuck to do. They're nothing. I mean, it's just this. Yeah, all right, go ahead, talk shit like that and see where it gets you. I can see.
Well, I don't see it as motivating any of that stuff. I think there's certain stuff in the campaign that there'll be pressure on him to do from his own supporters in a way that he might care about and do something. But mostly, I think all the proactive things are going to be from all these crazy Pence and Sessions.
Let's put it this way. I don't think you can keep fucking around in Syria without eventually pissing off Iran, okay? Because their interest is their interest is being the king of the Middle East in a sense, okay? And Saudi Arabia and this bullshit in Syria, okay? There's going to eventually be a point where they start hurting interest of Iran, and when they do that, then the rhetoric's going to get heated, and you know how Donald Trump is once rhetoric gets heated. He's a lunatic.
But you think we're going to do something? Because this was supposedly one of the reasons we're going to have Trump, because Hillary was going to start World War III with the no-fly zone.
I'm just saying, we know how Trump is, right? I'm just saying, if
I believe he's totally in the pocket of the Russians, like probably in business, made a deal with the KGB to get the emails out. And so, we're going to do what Russia is doing over there, which is actually we're going to stay out because. So.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying that the implications of doing that is going to have implications in both Iraq and Iran. And I'm just saying that eventually I think there's going to be some tension between us and Iran. And I'm just saying as soon as that tension starts, Trump isn't going to be able to handle it. He's not a diplomat.
Well, I'm trying to imagine what that would be, especially since the politics in Iran are such that, like, we'll renegotiate and let him say he won. With some deal that isn't really different. I don't think that plays in Iranian politics. You know what I mean? Both sides have reason to want to look like the winner. And it used to be the old days, both sides, one speaking, they're speaking in their own languages, so nobody really knows. But now they go ahead and translate that shit. So.
Well, I'm just saying it's third world leader against third world leader. You know what I'm saying? It's not like there's a grown-up in the room.
Yes, so I do know.
That's my only argument.
And he also, and what I was getting from you too, I think is a part of it anyway. And he's going to think he's America, so it's a lot bigger, and he's not going to really realize how head-to-head this situation is. Like, we can't afford to get in some big war with Iran and do anything else in the world. So even though they're the smaller country, but they're hardened enough that he's going to probably fuck it up thinking he's a bigger man on campus than he really is in the Middle East. There's a reason the whole world's superpowers haven't just gone in there and cleaned it up. I see him as playing that.
The full extent of his thought of international politics is he's watched some John Wayne movies and some George C. Scott movies, and that's the extent of his understanding of war.
General MacArthur.
So I'm sure he'll, boldly just.
But this is what I'm saying. The people he's putting in these positions, assuming it's going to go, to the Secretary of Defense and the rest, are such a bunch of hawks. That this thing of where he listens to the general, these guys like to blow things up and say the flowers are going to come, and they really live in magical fairyland where they think that's going to happen.
I'm just saying we've seen that his staffing choices are not much better than himself. So I'm just saying these
They're
aren't
worse. If anything, they're psychotic.
Well, they're not intellectual giants, so this could get out of hand so fast, so easy, because you don't
not
have
giants, and
you don't have a single professional in the room. You know, I mean, it's all just a bunch of
some of the most extreme politics out there in the Republican Party.
You know, this is Homer Simpson running the nuclear plant. I mean, it just really is. It's there's so many ways this can go wrong.
Do you think the CIA probably has a secret operation for if the president is this batshit stupid? And they're like, well, in that case, we do a coup.
Yeah, the CIA is disappointingly stupid also. I mean, the computer guys are really good, right? You know, but their field agents are just, that's Quintica, right? They go find some psychotic guy who's willing to go to Arabia and pretend he's interested in buying leather shoes or something, you know, and that's their agent, you know. I'm just saying that, you know, their CIA is not what you think it is.
Yeah, no, I think there's elements in these organizations though that could be mobilize against, like the Bush family has tons of connections with the CIA, have since its beginning, I believe, and you know, at some point it might be like, okay, we got, but see this, because here's another thing, the Republicans would like to have President Pence, so they. If he puts himself in a position and someone says, hey, I got room for this double move, it's like a juke, I got a, you know, a football move or something where I dash around to take him out and have, because Pence is extremely conservative, but also actually, you know, knows people in Washington and how government, you know, how to get the stuff done, how to not be obvious, you know, how to look less sane than
he does. I mean, you know, if you watch his, you know, he can talk. I mean, he's more articulate.
I'm saying they would like him better than Trump, who is.
Well, I know, but if you want,
Pence will play by their rules, plus making abortion illegal.
Well, I'm just saying, but Pence is so obvious that, you know, in terms of his fanatic Christian bullshit and his backwardness, that he's going to be a real turnoff to all the younger Trump voters, you know, because it's like, this guy is, you know, he's not old, but he talks like an old man. I mean, he's
You mean they might not do that thinking they could get 8 years out of Trump?
They like Trump because he says fuck now and then, and he grabs them by the pussy. They don't want some fucking old man president now. Oh, the old man's going to take care of it?
No, I'm not talking about the Republican voters. I mean the Republicans there in Washington.
I know, but the Republicans know that the only way they can survive whatever they're going to do is they have to make it sellable. And I'm just saying, they know they can sell it if Trump sells it. They can't sell it if Pence is selling it. So that's my only argument.
Right.
Trump can sell it, Pence can't.
Like Trump, and even his idiot family, than Pence, because it's even less. Like Pence would have had more because of the crazy religious stuff. He would have had a hell of a time becoming president in this day.
Yeah, he just would have looked like another one.
I mean, half the people. I mean, none of the people that don't care about religion really thought Trump was all a Bible thumper when he took the Bible up there. So, you know, he got away with being on both sides of that fence that Pence wouldn't have. So I would rather actually deal with Trump. You know, especially since Trump is able to go up there and go, hey, maybe torture wasn't a good idea, which does make him an idiot, like you were pointing out, but it's also like a notch better than any of the other Republicans we would have had. Do you think?
I know, but that notch can go either way. So on the next subject, he'll just go the other way and he'll say, no, I was thinking about, they don't call them queers for no reason. We ought to kill the queers.
Yeah, you know, that's an interesting thing, though, because I always thought he was an asshole, etc. But he also was like a New York Republican. You know, like, but you know, as he ran, if he went back to that level of. But on the other hand, I think it doesn't really matter that much what exactly his politics are, because I think a lot is this team he's putting in place, the vibe of America. and its reaction to him,
Yeah,
and that volatile thing where he could cause some sort of chaos from his volatile way of being. And if it's not him getting too upset and pushing the button at 3 in the morning after a really nasty tweet, yeah, I'm bombing you fuckers, and tweet and button, it might be riots in the street, because I just don't think he's gonna that part of the Tinder keg. In a way, it
well,
doesn't matter his politics.
yeah. I mean,
Chaos.
I'm not going to say I'd rather get rid of Trump just because he's crazy, and Pence, I think, is better for liberals in the sense that Pence can be turned into Bush 4. Like Pence can be just turned into another Bush.
Well, there is that in the sense that, I mean, it's like
How's he different?
he knows he has to compromise with whatever the actual status quo is. So he'll try to say, oh, you have to go to the abortion. You had an abortion, you got to go to the fetus's funeral, because he knows you can't just send out the state guard to, block abortion clinics. You won't get away with that. So maybe he would not do as much. On the other hand, I think he's a dominionist. Like, I think, there is a chance that the Air Force, and we could have a religious dominionist coup in this country. We keep getting closer and closer to it. I don't think we're within 4 years of it, but this is the kind of thing that can accelerate that.
I'd rather have Pence, because I think he's just going to destroy the Republicans, because they'll revert to their typical bullshit, and their typical bullshit will be seen what it is, with just connivery for the rich. And so everybody will recognize the tax cuts, and the rest of it is just paying benefits to the rich, and they'll screw in the poor. He'll look like another, like I said, he'll look like another Bush.
So you kind of are acknowledging then that you think they think implies you see that Trump is a net positive for their brand then, because he's entertaining, because he'll say fucking pussy or whatever. Right. So he's maybe, that's true.
He changes.
Plus, he takes heat from whatever's really going on, because people consider whatever he said not really a part of what's going on. So it might work out.
Whatever's really going on will be described, and Trump will just change the definition of it. So Trump is, if he's good at one thing, he's really good at just stopping a subject by saying something incredibly stupid, like, sometimes the air feels really heavy. Maybe this heavy air could be used to, clean the water.
I think that's one we would have to give him, because I noticed that he's done that a lot, and these various tweets that he does that seem crazy, I've decided it's not just a coincidence, their timing and the way they change. Because like one time he was in that in an interview, and I forget what the subject was, but he didn't know what was going on, and they kind of pinned him, and he's like, hey, let's go around. I want to say, what's everybody's name? Who am I talking to here? Like 40 minutes into the interview, something you do at the beginning to cool. He's good at that. He's good at and you wouldn't think he's good at it, because he says so many stupid things. It's like you put your foot in your mouth that you don't realize how, but there was a point that he didn't reach by the time he managed to get you to think about something else. Possibly by saying that thing you thought he put his foot in his mouth was actually the thing, because it made you forget that he was about to tell you he can't count from 1 to 5.
Right.
And then it ended up that I grabbed pussies, and it worked. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, I have to admit, it's kind of funny in a, I don't know, not a positive way, but the way, like, is he going to tweet every Saturday about Saturday Night Live? Not funny, not fair, not unbiased. Like we're going to have a Twitter president. Is he really going to keep tweeting like in the middle of the night as president? This is amazing, really. It might be the most access to a president ever. There might be these weird silver linings. Just, I think Americans do kind of have, fuck it, throw a wrench in that, kick the TV. I mean, how many Americans back in the old tube TVs that, if the TV wasn't working, first thing, what do? Kick it, start by kicking it. And that's kind of what Trump is like. Well, we'll just kick the government. And, who knows? Sometimes something breaks free and you go, oh, here's the part. Now the TV's totally broken. Now we know which part is broken. Once something's totally broken, it's easier to figure out, the broken part is when it's just kind of on the edge. So, I don't know. There could be some of that. But what I don't want to do is like cooperate. I don't think there's any, hey, maybe we could work with him. No, maybe we can fool him. Maybe we could exploit him. Maybe we could take advantage of something that we wanted out of it. If you think there should be more of the immigration restriction and actions, maybe there'll be some of that. Maybe he'll fuck that up. But none of it is us working with him. It really has to be, you know, watching for him, take advantage of any stumbles, take advantage of any deals that we can do, but in no way, like if something good comes from Trump, I don't think there should be any giving him any credit for it.
Well, I don't think anything could possibly. Like I said, it's just Republican crap, and Republicans are great at failing dismally. So I'm just saying that there's nothing in Republican politics that has any value to anything.
It's actually a right-wing thing, like the
Yeah,
Nazis.
I'm just saying they can't do. They didn't. Yes, the Nazis without the Volkswagen. I mean, Republican ideology is Randian, right? I mean, we
but
all
also means short-lived. They do things
a
to make it
rational person
short-lived.
knows that this Randian idealism, not idealism, elitism, is futilely stupid. Monarchy doesn't work. All right, there's no way you could defend monarchy, right? And that's all Republicans want is a monarchy. So every one of their policies is geared towards, they talk about like earning it and fairness, but then none of their policies are tests of those things. So all they really want to do is make everybody's lives miserable and exploit it and make their lives better. They just want to steal from the poor and give to the rich. That's all Republicans do, right? They don't do anything else.
You know, I've been thinking a lot about this whole cuck thing. I think this is a little key to the way they're thinking about stuff. And it's like, do they want royalty? They do want a big daddy. He actually in that Pussygate thing says, you know, I try to sleep with guys' wives, which makes them a cuck. If they want the president to be a guy that's going to try to sleep with their wife, I'd say that you must mean that, you know, that turns you on, this powerful man. Or this bully, this old white male bully they want to bring back. Like, remember when you could just say to a woman in the street, hey, you got nice big tits, let me see them, without anybody acting like that was wrong? Yeah, back then, 90% of these guys, these Trump supporter kind of guys, they were being bullied also by the alpha male. The alpha male bullies the other white males. There's only, you know, 1% of them or 10% of them like that. And yet I get the idea there's something that sick and dysfunctional that they want that, like maybe is even a homoerotic thing to it or something. Like there's something some sort of a fetish to wanting this guy, and that it has something to do with the fact that they're all obsessed with this whole cuck metaphor now.
Well, they're all
out of the blue.
They say in love with cheaters too, so it's winning by cheating. Don't pay your taxes, don't play by the rules, you know, get there through inheritance, don't earn it. You know, don't earn it. That should be their slogan,
really?
right?
But wait. You're saying they know that on some level, like subconsciously they know he's a cheater and they like that, as opposed to telling themselves he can't be a cheater, he's rich.
They by cheating, they know they can do that. You see what I'm saying? Like, say if they elected Hulk Hogan, oh well, fuck, they can never be a Hulk Hogan, right? Because he's earned his muscle, so to speak. Well, even if you use steroids. Well, you know what I'm saying. So it's a more obvious alpha. Like Trump isn't an alpha because he earned it, right? So it's just this artificial king thing, you know, where why would you admire a king, right? I mean, there's absolutely no reason for anybody to say, oh yes, I love the prince whoever, you know, the king to be, like somehow he's a better man. And who with a reasoning brain could possibly ever do that? So that was all a psychology of people who would sit there and say, I'm going to give respect and reverence to something without any merit whatsoever. No merits. He didn't jump a high bar. He didn't do a motherfucking thing. You know?
Well, see, that's the thing too. I'm not that surprised that you could run that kind of campaign. It is more of a right wing, but it's also populist. It could get these kinds of, you know, working class people. The rhetoric. What I was surprised about is how half-assed he could do it, and how he could back out of something he said and then said, no, he is going to build the wall again, or, you know, I liked the you know, and I'm tough, and then he doesn't even bring it up when he talks to the Mexican president. That surprised me. So I know there's something fetish-wise that they liked, where they bought all those words that a lot of politicians notice. Every Republican's trying to say those words.
Right? I mean, they had Christie and other people talking about what a great businessman he is because he went bankrupt and made money off going bankrupt. And you're just like, how could this possibly? This is like you go to the Olympics, you piss your pants and you fall down, and somehow they make you out to be a hero. You got the greatest medal ever, man. Yeah, that was some sport.
Well, I think one thing we learned, it's a little subtle, but it looked like he didn't want us to have his taxes because he wasn't as rich, I thought originally, and I've changed my mind, but these are still true, but it's something different. He didn't want to show us his taxes because he's not as rich as he says he is, and he hasn't paid any. But it's not that. It's the deals. It's the businesses that he has that he makes or loses or claims to lose money on in Russia, wherever, India. That's what he doesn't want to show. And that's the scary part, because like you were saying earlier, that's ridiculous. That's the important part, that we actually have a right to know. And he has a right to own them or whatever. Well, I don't know about him particularly, but it's okay. Like, if he's so rich, it would be hard for, not so rich, but because of the kind of investments and there's so much money, it would be hard for him to divest it all, to sell the Trump business and put it blank. I could even buy that, but there's no explaining that we can't even know what the deals are. So this is a thing that they need to start right now going, well, what about that? What about that audit? Is the audit over? Could we meet the auditor? Prove to us there is an audit. They should start pushing him on that 1,000% until they get that. That's very important information. And politically, I think it'd be a smart move for Democrats and stuff. They could just, I mean, it's at least as good as your, birth certificate for a never-ending issue, right? If he never comes up with it, if he never shows them, it definitely should have been on the news every week. In the meanwhile, we should have 200, 300, that's Sunday talk shows on it.
That's why I get discouraged, though, because it's all moot, because these morons. I mean, idiocracy is one. I mean, the American people are just too stupid. They don't want to know. They don't care. It's all about image, and that's it. It's so superficial. Give me any celebrity, I'll vote for them. Just it's that bad.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. I wondered about that, like any celebrity, because I think there's a lot of celebrities where it'd work against them, and he is one of them that I thought that would be the case, though. So I have to admit, I don't really understand. I don't understand his celebrity. The missing part is I always thought him as a buffoon that happened to own a lot of businesses. When he was going, "You're fired," that was the most ridiculous thing to me, that whole show. But it didn't go on for 12 years because everybody thought that. So in a lot of people's minds, he really is. He's the guy that decides if you're good or not. He's the guy that decides if you win this game show.
What was the win? That's all I'm trying to say. The show was professional wrestling. The show wasn't about doing anything good in the world or decent. It was about who the best con artist. And did you con enough people to get your $500? You have to go out in the street and con people and get $500. Who had the best con?
See, I never watched the show, so I never really saw what the exercises were.
That really was. It was just take a group of people and you give them an assignment, make $1,200, selling gum. And whoever comes up with the best way to sell gum for $1,200, each task, whoever was the worst contributor to the task gets fired. So that's all the show was. And then
White Houses tend to be cutthroat competitively, and it's up to the president to manage and avoid that. And if he's the kind of guy that emphasizes it, he will get deadlock in his own administration, because people have to sign pieces of paper and stuff to get some of this shit done. And if there's real deadlock, it's like, what were we supposed to sign? I don't know. Ted left, he fired, and I don't, so, I mean, to me, hopefully, that'll slow him down a little bit.
No, there's going to definitely be people sabotaging each other, right? Just because.
Well, it happens in every.
Trump's not going to bother trying to weed out who's right and wrong.
It's everything. I mean, when FDR went to meet Chamberlain, or no, it must have been Churchill. I forget. No, I don't remember. Anyway, his cabinet made arrangements to stop oil shipments to Japan because that's what they wanted to do, and he wasn't letting them do it when he was gone, And then by the time he came back, they had been delayed so long that the Japanese were like, fuck it, and they were already making plans to go take the oil out of Indonesia, which is why they came to Hawaii on the way. So of course that's not fair, because he had a famously backstabby at odds cabinet, but it's pretty much always true. And you can imagine, of course, it's going to be true. People have their own ideas. Even if they're honorable, then they think it's because this is what's best. And since they're usually not honorable, it's like, well, this will help my cousin more. And so I can't imagine that the skill I'm looking for, the secret skill, is managing people well and helping them get along with each other and get things done. I don't see that as possible.
Well, I think it'd be a get things done, but it won't be get things done by the rules, and that'll be the thing that'll fuck them.
One thing I was realizing is like he and his family are gonna rob the treasury, and I thought, well, that's just a presidential tradition, and he's not actually got the billions of a Halliburton to do it really, really professionally. You know what I mean? It's been done by people that ran companies in industries that have, 1,000 lobbyists. And so he'll probably actually take fewer billions from the coffers than most of these cabinets and things. So I'm not too worried about that. Same thing with the mob link. I think the mob tie should have made the voters weary, but in reality, I don't think the mob is any more dangerous for this country than Halliburton or the Koch brothers.
Well, I'm just saying, there's lots of, the graft.
They're more dangerous on the street of Chicago, but not in the streets of New Delhi, so it's like, I'm not too worried about that. The only thing I'm still worried about is the destabilization. Civil war, riots for 4 years, hot wars, possibly, but more like the civil unrest of causing just chaos and disaster because people get so worried.
Some of that's hard to always, you don't want to start a revolution too prematurely, but there's always got to be some pre-revolutionary noise. You have to expect some of that. So some of that might be encouraging, because some of that might lead to, like you're saying, the formation of a better party, a people.
Well, like this Kazumi Fowler guy would say, oh, don't panic. And I'm like, well, no, it would be appropriate for some people to panic. I mean, if you're a Muslim, gay, Mexican, I mean, you might want to panic. Or for that matter, what about Roe v. Wade? I'm about at the point where fuck the South. Let's do it to the states. If it'll release the tension, just leave if you don't like that your state does that. But we're facing losing Roe v. Wade enough that that's something to panic about, right? And traditionally, we would be panicking about it if we weren't worried about nuclear codes and stuff. I don't know about you, but generally speaking, this is a liberal panic when we almost lose it, and we got to the idea where, oh no, we have it as a national right, and that's worth panicking over for people. I mean, there are women that fought for that when they were in their teens, still around, looking at maybe losing it right before they die. That's a political reason to panic. And since actual women will bleed to death, it's a real reason to panic.
Yeah, I mean, for Trump to even talk about going back to coat hangers as if that's what should happen, it's just disgusting. But the fact that Hillary didn't push that, I don't even know why Obama didn't. The whole fact that, we finally got we finally got some picks. I don't even like them, but you know what I mean? We finally got a court that's a little better. And, and then we got...
I know she did all of those things with little girls. Sorry, go ahead.
Icon of the fucking evil Supreme Court. I mean, got rid of Rehnquist, and now Scalia's gone. That was like monstrous. And Obama didn't fight for that pick. It was his.
Yeah,
it was Obama's goddamn. It was his pick.
Well, you know what? And he should have made it an actual liberal instead of saying they'll like us if you want to. Like, who's really the cucks? Is they'll like us if we nominate a moderate Republican. No, they won't. And if it had been a liberal, black, gay, Mexican, transgender, you could have thought about it in the election. It would be better politics. And so, yeah. But the thing is, he has this Supreme Court thing right away now, and I think that'll be a big tell, because to me, he's going to have to put an anti-Roe v. Wade person in there. Those are hard to come by now. You're not even going to get someone as sane as Scalia, right? If you want somebody that isn't 80, they have to be really crazy to be 45 and be.
No, the federal courts are covered with them. It's going to be easy to find one.
No, I'm not saying he'll have trouble finding one. So he finds one of these guys, he's going to be like crazy right wing in every way. And if he doesn't do that, then that goes back to like, won't his backers, like I know people that voted
Doesn't have
for
a
him just
choice.
because
He
of
doesn't have
abortion.
a choice. He doesn't, and he's already basically said it. I mean, he's already
So
committed
you
to
think
this.
he'll do the right wing one? He won't come up with some
Already
moderate.
committed to it. He's already committed to it. It's yeah.
Yeah.
That's written in stone. That's happening.
Well, so that's the interesting thing, because I agree. I don't know if you're right, if it's happening, but I agree in this in the following way, that he is committed, and that's something he can't get out of. Not even all the That's all the Republicans that hated him, that love him. It's because of that. All of the. So I think. But what I don't know is that he'll still do it anyway, because I think he's a double crosser, and he knows when it's too late for you to do anything. Hey, concrete's all poured, motherfucker.
And yeah, but his vice president is the lunatic. He's already got people in his cabinet lunatics. There's no way he can't do it. No way.
Because he's not really anti-abortion.
It doesn't.
Very
He's not.
much.
It doesn't matter. He's not. He has no policy. He's only objective is Trump, 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 Trump. So don't ever think that he
But
has.
Ivana is not
He has no
pro-abortion.
position.
Ivanka, I mean.
Ivanka's stupid as Trump, so she's not a fucking Einstein. So don't be fooled. They don't have any brain. The only thing they've ever been trained to do is whatever's in their family interest. That's all they think about. Trump, 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 Trump. That's it. They don't have any. They don't have any politics. Their politics is rich is really fun, and don't let anybody get in your way to get rich.
Well, you know, I think they've really blown that, because you can only be president for 8 years, and at the end, the way politics works is there's no way it's going to be good. Like if you ran Coca-Cola,
he's not going to run. He didn't want to be president in the first place. He's going to quit after the first 4 years. He's just going to say, "Look, I'm an old man."
Anyway, it doesn't matter. 4 years, same things. You do not leave office with a good brand. Like, you can be doing great in popularity, like Obama is. Oh wow, only 45% of the people hate your guts. Well, that's not good for your business, right? Like if Coca-Cola was like, we're just going to piss off only 35. So the popularity of an outgoing or former president, even when it's considered great, is not exactly great when you're trying to market steaks or whatever. So
but we know
I think they fucked that up.
Is that's not what he's going to be doing. So you're not getting it. Okay, he's going to be doing exactly what Hillary Clinton did and what Clinton did. Okay, he's going to be getting his payments for what he did favors. So the favors he's going to,
but not his kids aren't.
While he's president, he's going to be talking to executives and whatnot and saying, yeah, I hear you, but later on, you know what you're supposed to do, right? You're going to pay me, $10 million, right? We got that deal. Okay.
But are you saying he's just going to abandon this Trump brand? He does got some big buildings and stuff. He's going to have to get off of that.
He doesn't have anything. He doesn't have any big buildings. That's the whole point, right? They have his name on them, and that's all they have. Okay. I mean, the gold.
So maybe it doesn't matter too much. But
he doesn't own one single apartment in some of those buildings.
So the issue is then they don't care about losing the brand power. It's not that big of a brand power anyway. Well, they're going to have to. They're going to have to move their money into some other named industry. He's going to
be in a new business is all I'm saying. Is now he's going to get into banking and he's going to get into all these other businesses because that's who he can deal with now. Okay, he's got all these. His business interest is expanded, just like Clinton's. What business did Clinton have? He had no business. So how did he make $100 million? Clinton doesn't know how to do anything. How did he make $100 million?
Well, I'm going to predict that he's not actually that smart enough to do that. But you're right. If he got into other businesses where you don't use your own brand because you own 20% of Barclays or something, move your money into the more robust part.
That he gets to make the deal. When Halliburton wants to do a deal, he gets to be the contractor on the deal. That would be something like that, right? So he gets to be the general contractor who doesn't have to do anything and just collects his salary. So he'll get an artificial $10 million for doing absolutely nothing, and no one will really know about it. And if they investigate, it'll be like, well, no, he's the general contractor. He subcontracted to these other companies, and he got paid $10 million. And no one will pay. It's like Giuliani. What does Giuliani know? He got paid millions of dollars as a consultant. Who the fuck would consult Giuliani?
What a crazy guy but
I'm just saying that those deals are being.
Well, do you think there's any chance he'll get indicted? He'll get arrested. He'll get some criminal thing will happen to him. It is possible.
All of those cases won't get prosecuted till he's done being president. So who knows if he gets prosecuted for anything. So I'm just saying that's going to be kind of tough to do.
That's the problem with this Democratic Party. They for sure won't go that way. But there have been Democrats, and they're still in the party, that would take a different tack. But we'll just have to see.
I don't see the Republican House being too.
If they don't fight him,
I don't see them being too fast to form any friggin' investigational committees.
I don't see it happening either. And this is not a threat based on, so they better do it. I think they won't do it. But if they don't fight him as hard as they should have fought W, then that's it. I don't care. I'm not voting for it. I won't vote for Bernie or any. I'm done with that party entirely. This is time to show that you understand that politics is a kind of a fight. And if they don't play it, if they try to capitulate, you know, like, because we were talking about with CNN and stuff, and why aren't they still investigating and stuff? That's how the Democratic Party tends to do it too, to go over, try to make friends and stuff.
Saying, they're in a pretty weak condition. So this might be a good argument for a midterm election, but it's kind of a moot point for the next 2 years, because I don't think the Democrats could fucking, they can't win a vote on whether everybody should tie their shoes or not. They have no power at all. I mean, they're dead in the Congress.
But no, that's all the more reason to watch this, where the line of criminality is. Right.
Well,
and don't wait till he crosses it. Just do it as soon as any prosecutor in the world could argue he'd crossed it, you know, before he actually crossed it a little bit.
They don't have the political power to form the investigative committees, and those are the only ways you're going to get it prosecuted, because obviously Trump's own fucking his own law enforcement agency isn't going to investigate him. So the only people.
Well, I think you might not be able to go right after him. The thing is, like, some of these laws about conflict of interest that don't apply to him, well, they're going to apply to his kids that have cabinets and his son-in-law. So you watch those things, you indict Eric Trump and trace it up to the president. I mean, that would be the traditional.
Yeah, well, that's only going to be able to happen in like New York State or something, but you have to have some place that's a liberal stronghold. But that's
exactly.
Well, I'm just saying I just think the law.
Well, it doesn't have to be as total. New Jersey still has a lot of Democrat power in it, right? I mean,
not really. Obviously, not in the governorship. I mean, with the last Democrat,
so you don't have a state attorney right now, but
the last Democrat we had was a millionaire, you know.
Well, but New York still does, and they all New York residents, I think.
Yeah, the Democrats here are just totally.
And then the other thing is not. I really don't think that the Democrats will go that way. That's not who has taken over the Democratic Party. I am hoping that there's journalists. I'm hoping there's even establishment journalists in the lower ranks of these CNNs and stuff. But if not them, then the foreign and independent journalists, the documentary makers, the people that still, you know, go for broke and try to get the huge story. I hope at least they're on it, because we got some pretty, you know, there's some pretty pit vipers in that.
Going by past experience, I'm just saying the whole Bush fucking Iraqi war thing was such a farce, and the media just played right along. They put their little people on the tanks, you know. I
don't even like you saying that, Gary, because I'm trying to believe that we're past that now. And if Trump did exactly the same line of, you know, outcomes, you know, the unfolding that happened, that people would call him on it. And I know that's probably not the case.
I'm just saying you can't count on the media. Just they're whores.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but I actually do believe that the Bush administration, you know, let 9/11 happen. I don't think they knew exactly what would happen, but they were playing it light so that they could have their Pearl Harbor moment, right? So you probably don't believe that. Is that right?
And yeah, they're stupid. They're not fucking lunatics. Why would you sit and play a game that has fucking nuclear bombs hanging off of it?
Because they don't have nuclear bombs. They knew it would be blowing up the.
It could go anyway. It could go all kinds of bad ways.
Because they weren't letting nuclear bombs out. All they had to do is not arrest a guy that was going to fly a plane.
Uncontrollable politically. I'm just saying it's politically uncontrollable. It's like inviting. It's like the people in the civil rights movement. You know, they just invited the creation of a Martin Luther King. They invited it, okay, and they got killed by it. So I'm just saying there's no way you would play that kind of game, because history tells you that's too you can't, you play controlled games, not uncontrolled games. And random terrorism, that would be like the stupidest game in the world to play. Where's the world? Where are we going to go as a country after random terrorism? Are we
Into
going to
Iraq. I think they planned it. They wrote it all down ahead of time.
I think they could have turned exactly the opposite way, and we all turned into some sort of thing like, well, we've got to have a real peace agreement. We got to have a better UN. You could have all kinds of world government talk. All kinds of new things could happen out of that, because people would turn the other way. They'd figure out that we got to stop this revenge war.
But you know, I mean, the answer to that theory is just that because there's people that are very conscious about their brand as being crisis, that they can manage crisis. Crisis is an opportunity.
Still, you can't control the collateral damage. It might be your own kids who get blown up. I don't buy it for a minute that they sat there and actually calculated, let's open the door for a big terrorist attack because it'll be fun for us politically. I don't think that happened.
I think they did it, and it came off a little bigger probably than they knew. But the issue would be, will Trump do that? Whether it's incompetence or kind of a planned incompetence, or, you know, even a full-on plot to false flag yourself.
I think these people are stupid. I don't think they're evil necessarily. They're incredibly stupid. So I just don't buy the maniacal. You know, you're making him into a maniacal.
Well, no, I'm actually asking. I don't have the impression of that, and I'm still buying. And that's right. You were bringing this up. That one thing is going on is that Trump cares about this metaphysical, in some sense, like he wants to make a legacy. Exactly. He doesn't just want to make $100 billion and everybody thinks he's a loser, but he's rich. No, he was already rich. He wants to be thought of as a winner, and so that is a thing that. Well, okay, at least he cares about the results, and that might actually be better than the Bush family. They didn't give a fuck what we think of them. We know the Bush family, none of them really care.
I don't know.
Well, they want us to like them enough to win an election, but you know, other than that, they don't really care what the little people think about them.
I think
Trump can't stay off fucking Twitter if he thinks the guy in Omaha doesn't think he's a winner. You don't have to like him, but you got to think he's a winner.
Yeah, well, I think it's more insidious. So I don't think that ego thing is very good, because it's ego in the wrong way. You know what I mean? It's it's not a matter of deeds; it's a matter of impression. So he'll try to get away with, bullshit, and it'll be sloppy. And well, Trump is going to fail. I just don't have any. I don't have too much doubt about that. He's going to leave office as pretty well hated. But
But you do think he'll have a business life afterward? He'll have made enough connections and slash.
Well, I guess that really depends on just how bad he fails. So obviously, he's not going to have any business life if he fails badly enough that nobody.
Well, he has enough personal money to use his connections as president to move his money, get actual stock. Like the power of owning 5 or 10% of a bank before he's out of office. The thing is, I think he'd rather his brand be great and Trump be synonymous with winner.
Imagine the analysis you would have access to, okay, as president, the economic analysis. You have economic analysis by the FBI, by the CIA, by the Fed. You know what I'm saying? The insider information that's got to equal. In terms of you have explicit statements by the Fed that when we put $1 trillion in the reserve accounts, there'll be a 21.8% increase in all industrial stocks. They have all that analysis, and Trump is going to get all that free analysis.
Well, that's interesting because he can't get he's not above insider trading, other than the fact that they won't prosecute these people for laws they actually break. But I mean, technically, he's not above getting caught for something like that. That would be funny, like making $1 billion off of 1%.
Well, we know that. I'm just saying that we know that we could just analyze even if they took the Clinton tax returns, if they could find out exactly which stocks they owned, I bet you would find out that they did incredibly well. They were incredibly lucky. Yeah. They happened to pick all these really great stocks, and it just happened to be so lucky. And I'll tell you that there wasn't luck. Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, insider trading is a funny thing. Obviously, just went into the closet, and the scale of it got reduced by making it not smart to put on a big memo and send it to all your friends.
I'm just saying that obviously, you know, they got the analysis of the best computers in the world and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, how could you possibly fail with that analysis?
Well, I smoke outside, so I'm going to go smoke, but I don't know, you want to just wrap it up, or do you want to keep going in a few minutes? You feel like you...
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we might as well not switch subjects, so we'll just leave it as one dead Trump subject. And
Okay, yeah, well, the other thing I wanted to talk about, and I'll probably make a video about it now, but is related, is this snowflake stuff. I've been getting called a snowflake a lot lately.
what does that mean?
Well, it's like the feels, you know, these anti-liberal people they think that, you know, we're just all sensitive Yale students that need a safe space. That's all of why we don't like torture. That's all of why we...
All right, we'll do a little of that then. So go smoke and I'll start.
Okay. All right.
So it's the Rag on Piro show. Piro's a douchebag, a douchebag, a douchebag. One of the biggest douchebags on YouTube in history of YouTube. An incredible douchebag, can't even find his lighter. He's such a douchebag. And such. And so forth and whatnot. See what goes by in the doorway. I'll comment on it. All right. It's nothing so far. Yeah, nothing. Empty space. It seems there's a lot of empty space in Pharaoh's house. Do nothing, inefficient space. Seems like most of the space in his house doesn't have a job. It's a bunch of fucking, you know, lazy bum space. Oh, there's that stupid dog. That's supposed to be the new dog. Yeah, the black and white dog. I used to have a black and white dog. Guess he's got 2 dogs now or something. I don't know. Shouldn't have too many dogs. Hey, there's that kid. Yeah, remember that kid? Yeah, I don't remember him, but yeah, that's the kid. All right, he's telling somebody off. Don't be fucking telling me that, you stupid whore. That's how he talks to his mother. Pretty rude. What else? All right, go punch your brother in the face, something like that. I don't know whether he has the other kid still. Well, I won't get into personal stuff. That's rude. So let's see what else is. What's news here? Fake Sagan's been gone for a whole day. Yay! I did predict he'll end up doing a podcast. It was funny that he even said that. That's probably what he'll do. Fucking cunt. But it won't matter because yeah, he'll just talk his loony theories of. You know, of whatever, white supremacy and Jeebus. God, what a pitiful evolution. So, any of you Piro viewers, if you want to watch some really good videos, you have to go to the Inmendham channel. It's a really smart guy, really great videos, in-depth philosophy, thinking and such. A lot funnier, you know. A lot easier to listen to. Doesn't talk as much. Well, he talks as much, but he doesn't talk as much. Yeah, he doesn't talk over himself. Go on and on and on and on and on. I mean, he goes on and on and on, but it's like relevant, meaningful. Oh, there's Kitty. I guess he called it Cat. There's Cat. Yeah, he's probably going to take Cat. He'll probably take his chair. That's what cats do. They steal chairs when they can. Mostly. Yeah, my cat does. And I guess I should do some politics while I'm here, or some philosophy. Cat said, oh, Piro was sitting in it smelly. I don't want to sit in it. A bunch of Piro smell on it. Yeah, I don't really have it. My brain is so fried. That was a tough week. We took on Fake Sagan and Anaconda in the same week. Eesh. That'll hurt you. Now he broke the computer, knocked it over. Very good, Cat.
All right, I only smoked half of it.
Oh,
To be
wow.
quick and be thoughtful. I could be.
Gee, it's a whole new hero.
I am. Is it? It
Yeah,
is in ways.
so like fake Sagan. It's a whole wow.
Oh my God. Oh, that's the other
Oh,
subject.
Christ.
Fake Sagan, and you were talking to Tommy, and are these fucking guys serious? I really, are they buying it? Or are they part of a? Is this just one of those plots where we hear the emails in a couple months? It's fucking insane. I don't know what the fuck's they're going on in their head.
Yeah, well, Tommy's okay. I talked to him. He's
And
okay.
and does fake Sagan really? Does he actually expect people, like he was talking about Catholics or what were blasphemers or something? I'm like, does he really? The thing about you atheists, how can?
Well, I love the part where he's in training, right? He's going to Greek Orthodox lesson.
Yeah, and he's learning Greek though. That is true. That's a great cheap way to learn Greek. I mean, you got to give him that.
But he hasn't figured out that
Or Russian, I mean, and Greek.
you're not supposed to say motherfucker. So somehow it's not like one of the first lessons is don't say motherfucker. I thought that was hilarious. You know, they just
Well, he was going on and on with about Christopher 7, his video to Christopher 7, which I saw that video and I was like, what? Christopher 7 still exists? But anyway, and I was trying to remember, was he a theist? He's a theist, right?
no.
Christopher 7. No, he's an atheist.
Yeah, he's all
I
right.
remember it's been years since I saw him, but then when I saw his video, I saw he'd made one like 8 months ago or something. So I guess he hasn't been totally gone, But anyway, to Christopher, he was all going on and on about how he, in the back in the day, he had this big ponage video set up and he'd almost want to, you know, and it's just like, you know what? You're exactly the same dude you've always been. Who are you trying to fool? Or is he not trying to fool? Has he really fooled himself? Because to me, it's just like, these are the guys that when you're at a party, I'm talking to them. They're talking a lot of bullshit. They enjoy it. Is this just the wild bullshit that's worth, you know, cutting yourself over? You got to have something exciting, right? Is that it?
No, it's always there's guys who could always come up with really good excuses why they can't do something, right? And so he's like one of those guys who can tell a story, you know. So it's like, you know, no matter which way, if he wins or he loses, he'll have a good story, and that's fake Sagan. He's great at telling a story. So yeah, he figured out, oh yeah, I can't really. This is bullshit.
So why don't these fuckers just monetize their YouTube accounts? Because I'd be fine with it. You're a good storyteller. You ought to make money for telling stories. Same thing with Snake Plisskenus. I just saw his video. He had a recent video. He's in a homeless shelter, but he's got a job as a busboy. And I commented to him too. It's like, if you need money, dude, you're eligible. Just monetize your fucking video because you tell a good lie. It's fun to watch you tell a story about you're 65 and you're a millionaire. You know, that was fun. You're good at that. He deserves to get some money for being a good storyteller. I'm all for that, and I never agreed with him on anything. So, and fake Sagan, the same thing. But fake Sagan has something really deeply fucked up about him. Way more than I ever would have guessed in the beginning. You know, I didn't get it.
He went through a whole big crisis. He has an identity crisis. He doesn't, you know, he's angry at the world and he don't know how to fix it. So he's just basically now still in the, well, I want to kill niggers, but you know, it's against the law. So I guess I have to find some, maybe I can get God to do it for me. I don't know. I mean, he just doesn't have a rational plan. I mean, he went through that whole anarchy thing, you know, the whole smooth terrorist thing. So, I mean,
Right.
the whole anti-government thing. And now he's going back to a government that's more oppressive than any government in the universe. You know what I mean? Religion. I mean, you can't get more government than religion.
But so in that sense, it's legit, though. You think this is really his current thing, just like being the smooth terrorist and the anarchist. It's his real thing.
I don't think he's sincere about becoming a true Orthodox, you know, Greek Orthodox Christian. I think he's just saying there's an organization there that has some value in the sense that it's endured for thousands of years and it has an integrity, and he's going to glean what he can out of it and make it his own. He's not. Well,
and it's really old school and bigoted. If you're looking for arguments about why women really shouldn't get the vote, it's a good one to go to. I've watched this one guy, I forget his guy, he's a former Jew that's now Russian Orthodox, and he's anti-Jew, and it's a great platform for, even though I shouldn't say that because the Orthodox Russian Jews are like, Russian Catholics are like, he's not really one of us. You know, so they're not willing, but
I'm just saying that's. I think he's going to use it. I don't think he's he's not gonna be a servant to it. He's gonna make it his own. So he's just gonna take what he wants out of it, and you know, I mean, they're all con artists, right? So I mean, it just doesn't matter. But anyway, so you're going with this snowflake thing,
Okay, yeah, snowflake.
which I sometimes feel. You know, I don't feel like a snowflake, but I mean, you know, it's this. I get it probably even more than you do, and you talk about these subjects. But this whole idea is that if you defend anything about a woman, you know, you're some kind of sissy or pussy.
Yeah.
And it's just an amazingly, you know, well, why would I? Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have the hate you have, because yeah, okay, I didn't have 10 kids with a hooker. You know, I'm sorry if you got some kind of custody issues or something, but frankly, why are you projecting that I should feel bitter in my relationship?
And if you were with a bitch,
You know,
and maybe she was, why would you be afraid of women?
Yeah,
how is that the big manly thing?
I've never had a hard time writing a contract with a woman. So I'm just saying, you know, I'm sorry you didn't know how to write a contract, you know, but, you know, that's not my problem. And that's what it seems like it's coming.
Well, that's the thing, exactly. So with me, it's like, on the one hand, I'm no special snowflake, and the people involved with politics with me were working class people that had to work their way through. And remember how you called us all communists, and you also were worried about the communists burning your country down? Yeah, communists will do that. And remember how we're communists? I mean, you want to pretend we're wimps and there's no violence because it's all special, and we want to give everybody a trophy and everybody's a special snowflake. On the other hand, yeah, I do believe everybody's a fingerprint. Everybody is unique. What's the fucking problem with that? Meanwhile, if you're trying to say that we won't fight you, that's not true. That's not what history says, you know. So
yeah, and it's also just drawing these rational lines. You know, they're just doing this pigeonhole thing. So everybody who says it's a transgender is a legit, it has a legitimate, it's in a legitimate outsider position. You know, that needs to be respected. You know, that you say have to make it some kind of insider position. But there's a difference between that and saying, yes, we should, you know, we all should finance, you know, reconstructive surgeries, and we should all, you know, respect their right to go into the ladies' rooms or do this or that. You know, there's all kinds of lines to be drawn. And it's the fact that nobody will make distinctions between, you know, a person who says, I'm for the right, and a person who says, I want to give them everything. Because there are people who are arguing that they should have every indulgence. You know, it's like people with these special animals now, right? I mean, people have, you know, emotional crutch animals. You know, they got like a parrot on their shoulder and a dog, and they got their you know, their helper cat. And
well, it's like this. They're acting like
they can't get through their life, you know, without something giving them a hug every 15 seconds.
Yeah. And well, they're acting like if I'm supporting the rights of the transgenders in some way, that I'm saying that you, a cisgender male, should be attracted to them, which is ridiculous. And mostly liberals aren't saying that. But there are some that will say that, and these Yale safe space kids, the privileged kids say it. But they shouldn't mistake that person for me. They should go down and look that there's people that'll take out lead pipes and fight you in the street, too. We're not fucking snowflakes.
I think this is a legitimate subject, because this is the problem with the media, right? What bleeds leads, right? So what do you see on the news? You just see a constant barrage of stories about lunatics. Who did the craziest thing today? Who said the stupidest thing today?
Yep.
And so, you know, you go to some
That's why Trump won.
School, right? You go to some fucking school where some wacky teacher has some idea that if, you know, everybody rubs their penis together, it's the same as a prayer or something. You know, whatever the wacky thing is, and all of a sudden that becomes the poster child for a whole pigeonhole. Now, this is what liberals are. This is what, you know, communists are. This is, you know, and it just pigeonholes all of them now. So if you believe in anything that's, you know, has any tag, and has any keyword or any, you know, whatever the Twitter thing is, right? Number sign at Twitter. Anything that has this similar hashtag, right? You're all of a sudden funneled right into that lunatic, and that lunatic is now a badge you have to wear, and you have to explain the lunatic. When I'm like, I don't have to explain fucking lunatics. Yeah. You know, it's like every cop having to defend a cop who shoots a guy through the windshield or something.
Well, see, part of it is like, I don't have to explain not being a snowflake. Fuck that. On the other hand, I almost do want to explain, because it's like this other thing of feels with a Z. I've been being told, oh, you're just going with your feels. And it's like, you mean this thing, empathy and whatnot. And yet the alt-right, the anti-SJWs, they're all white men feel bad because you keep calling them rapists and stuff. And it's like, that sounds like feels. And then it comes back to your sort of stuff where whether you believe, I mean, whether I believe the details of like the only objective truth is in the negative suffering, the fact is it comes back to how people feel about, if everybody's perfectly logical, then it comes back to their feelings of whether they want, you know, whether they want to smell curry or not, you know, whether they like that smell or not.
The problem with this war, though, is the real propaganda that's in it. Okay, it's like the Iranians are only seeing Iranian television, the Americans are only seeing American television. You know what I'm saying? It's that kind of isolation. So right here in America, the right wing's watching their news, the left wing's watching their news, and each one is a negative portrayal of the other. So it's just inciting the mischaracterizations of each other. So we're making them into silly women-hating, you know, thugs and cavemen, and they're making us into, you know, people who just, you know, can't emotionally deal with any aspect of life whatsoever.
That's interesting, because this is interesting because you're right. So this is what's really been going on, politics and just culture, is you demonizing, but also what's the opposite, the angelifying, you know, whatever, deifying or whatever.
Yeah.
So, and that's what the snowflake thing really is, right? It's like deification of every single person into something special. So what's the opposite of that when you're developing like that they're an anti-snowflake? Like, it's not good enough that they don't like Obama. He has to be illegitimate. It's not good enough they don't like Clinton. She's the most corrupt ever. Forget Nixon, forget LBJ, forget everybody. The most corrupt ever, a murderer.
Yeah,
it's like the opposite of snowflaking.
Multi-murderer.
Yeah. No, and I had, you know, I had family members that aren't like that go out to that when I said things and told them about this and that about Trump, and they're like, well, what about the murder?
Yeah, the 36 murders.
It's and this person doesn't even really believe it, but was resorting to it, and it's like everybody's a dirty snowflake or something, you know, like it's like they want to think in these simple terms, and they're going to start by telling us we think in simple terms.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that it's kind of a negative metadata because it's all getting reduced into these. Now the new hashtags are snowflake, cuck, racist, baboon, you know, deplorable, you know. So yeah, we're all going to just get hashtagged, you know, because we have a 5% of our ideology is pro something. You know, we're now we're 100% pro it. You know, even though it's just 5%. I just want.
I think she was wrong to call them a basket of deplorables. It should have been a bucket. A bucket would have been.
It should have been a bathtub. Yeah,
bathtub would have been good.
A swimming pool of deplorable.
In all seriousness, I think her mentioning that is great. I've never been a fan of the word deplorable. I think it's just kind of a silly way, and it's sort of, I could see why Hillary was thinking of it, but I'm glad she put that into the meme brain or whatever, because yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, racism and torture, those are deplorable. I'm willing to stand up for that. Let's see if you want to hear the word deplorable for 4 or 8 years. Gary says 4.
I obviously, mine's less populist, my skanky cunt term, but yes, I mean, I don't really care what you call them as long as it's something terrible, because yeah, they suck.
Well, that's the thing. I would not say skanky whore or whatever, but I would come up with something. I mean, that's the whole thing about Hillary. The thing that's annoying about Hillary is also why she would find the word deplorable. You know, it's just like a regular word, and yet it's very insulting, and yet it's just the word deplorable. It's not cunt, you know. So I think there's something there, because really they needed to be called on, and especially since they then all acted like, she called us all deplorable. That's not good. And he's like, she only called half of you deplorable, and she specifically said the racist, bigoted half. And you are now defending that and saying you were part of that half. And I think there's some political capital there.
Yeah, well, I was saying that's what the politics has turned into. I'm just saying if they find this one person does something imbecilic, and now you have to account for it, and
Well,
that's
here's the
all.
thing, Gary. I don't want to join into that, but I feel like trying not to demonize people, we just have them tell that Obama, who I'm not even that fond of, is not even an American citizen, and I support a murderer for president and things like this. So we can't, we we have to. Well, I guess you're not saying otherwise because you are saying we have to do
I'm
that.
just
So we
saying
just can't be gallant about
I'm just
this
saying
shit.
the news has turned into a cartoon version of the news, and it's the Inquirer against Star Magazine. It's like two rags, okay, portraying reality, and and now we're having to defend the rag that we're on the side of, and that's my argument. Sort of is the media isn't, you know, dissecting all the
Yeah.
bullshit, coming up with the stuff that's important, right? It's just the
Yeah.
media just keeps saying, let's not find the important subjects. Let's find the craziest person on their side and the
Yeah.
craziest person on this side and have a cage match. They're
But
just,
I guess what I'm asking is, should we do that though? We can find and do that with their crazy people. I'm really happy I don't have to defend Hillary for 4 years as not as bad as you said, bad, but not that bad. And so we don't have to do that part. But, I mean, you talk a lot
I'm
of,
just saying,
you talk
I'm
a
just,
lot of you tell people a lot of cuss words, but really when you get behind that,
but I always
you're
back it up.
not, you
I
don't
back it up.
really,
Just saying though, my argument
you
is
should.
backed up with some kind of rational argument why NAFTA isn't really a worthwhile subject, or why being an inherent wealth person isn't a sign of merit. I mean, I'm making a real argument with my
No, what
accusation.
I'm asking is like this. Let's say Mike Pence was really terrible, like we were saying, like if he was president, it would be obvious. So do we just use him, hashtag him, and make hashtag everybody else because of him? Or if it's not him, maybe it's Donald Trump Jr. is the guy, and Bill, he's the Billy Carter, and we hashtag him. Should we actually do that? Because basically, we never do that. We go, hey, here's the policy we don't like, and here's the
I mean,
policy, and
the
you
hard,
might add in, and you're a fucking cunt for disagreeing. But that's different than actually targeting somebody, hashtagging them into a pigeonhole. And that's not the politics we really want in this country. But I think maybe we've been reduced to that's the way it's fought, and we have to fight or not take part.
well, I guess my argument is you can't really use Trump and Hillary as an example just because those two targets are good targets. Okay, so and they're legitimate things that are important. What I'm sort of arguing is that the illegitimate elements of those two parties end up being poster child for the parties. So I'm just saying that the one side of the media finds some huckleberry who voted for Trump and makes him the spokesman, and then they find some ignorant person, maybe of color, to be saying something pro Hillary and make a fool out of her. And so they have idiot argue idiot instead of smart versus smart. And that's what I'm talking about. And I guess the bigger subject would be like, say, a subject like immigration isn't getting dealt with because no one's talking about, well, what are we responsible for just because we did create these refugees, and are you willing to pay for a refugee camp versus having them come here? So these are all the issues you're going to have to deal with. And so there's lots of people who aren't anti-Muslim, but they're kind of anti the bad solution. And maybe Obama should be blamed for his stupid interventions instead of nobody pointing out that it's kind of all his fault.
Yeah. So just to be clear, yeah, no, I wish there was more of what you just said, especially since you're, let's say, skeptical of immigration and refugee kind of situations. There should be more people, especially someone like you, that doesn't, because that's the thing that says maybe we should take more, which I believe, but you skeptical about that, at least you can still admit, hey, we did cause these actual people, we had a role in how this came about. Hey, I want to get this. So before we finish up, because it's not, okay, I'm presenting it the wrong way. We've talked about it again, but we've talked about it. I kind of want to get again. So do you think he's actually going to make some you know, they've been talking about immigration reform forever. Nobody, you know, nobody can do anything with it. You know, Rubio tried to do the I'll be a little liberal about it. Just nobody. Do you think that Trump is actually, you know, maybe things are loosened up that he is going to be able to not do anything good that I would like, but I mean do anything he wants. You think he'll actually even be able to affect it, good or bad? You know, change a law, change a policy. He can't deport more people than Obama already did. So that thing's because you know you can only deport so many people a week. You
Well,
know, so what can he really do? Is he gonna?
he's arguing that there's, say, 2 million illegals who have committed crimes, and he'd like to kick all of them out. I don't know whether the crimes are traffic tickets. Who knows what statistics he's using? All right. So his
How you
argument,
find him?
yeah, well, yeah. Now that they're set loose again, yeah. How do you find them? So, but that's one he's arguing for. But I mean, obviously, the foreign immigrants, you know, from overseas, those obviously he can create you know, he can take the immigration process over there. You know what I'm saying? So he can create a tent city or something, and he can just have the paperwork go on forever. You know what I mean? They never get off of Ellis Island. You know what I mean?
Right. I don't see that as a very big change because they've already made it so like legal immigration in this country. You got to be rich. You got to wait for years. If you're not rich, then how the fuck are you living here for a year?
Oh, I just mean that
You're working as an illegal while you're waiting to be legal, and it's like it's hard to slow that down anymore.
well, I just mean I was talking specifically about the Syrians. So I'm just saying those
Oh,
were
right, yeah.
rushed through the process, and those are the ones he'll slow down in a tent city. That's all I'm saying. So he'll fix that immediate problem. Yeah, Europe's not a problem because obviously
I think he might have room to open up immigration, basically make the laws a little more sane, a little more modern, and you know, like build that wall, but with the big old doors. I see him as having a chance to do that, and I think he might do it.
You've been spending months trying to find a job, and you keep talking about how it's a good idea to import more people that know how to do what you're doing.
Well, I noticed these last couple.
Okay.
Just a couple weeks ago, or just a week ago. So I've worked there about 20 hours. So yeah, no, I've definitely faced the fact that you know, there's the visa stuff, and I thought about that. He specifically said he's going to shut down the visa. Well, my industry is the one using it. I got liberal friends, at least, but really more like traditionally liberal in every position, you know, than me, that have been against H-1 visas, you know, since the 90s. Like, are you kidding me? And a lot of good points too. And they actually were doing it out of a protectionist urge, but it's also true. I worked with the HB1 visa, and they're like slaves. They can't go to another job. And if they're trying to become a citizen, they can't go to another job. You know, they don't have freedom of motion. So it's not just that you're hiring somebody from India that maybe would take a less of a salary, but they literally can't move around. So they can't even increase their own, you know, they can't take part. If they came over here and were part of the local economy, they'd start making more, and, you know, it would kind of balance out. So I know a lot of people that are very concerned about it. I don't think he's going to do anything about that, though. I can't imagine that he's going to go against Cisco and Google and, you know, this is $1 trillion worth of companies.
He's not going to have a choice. So whatever he's going to propose is going to be something that gets through the Republican House. And so I'm just saying it's more likely, like I said, that they're going to package something, and they'll package it in a bill that's, you know, got a $5 an hour teenage wage or something. I know the Republicans want to bring that back. They want to have that conversation. So that's the way they want to destroy our wage base, is to threaten the minimum wage. And they can
you mean like get rid of HB1 visas, the main purpose of which is to lower our salaries, like just lower the minimum wage, or you're probably right. Lowering the minimum wage less likely than creating other categories, like for restaurant workers. Well, in this category.
Well, I'm just saying that you know, that trade-off will be very appealing to the Republicans, because, you know, in the long term, they don't want the immigrants. They don't like them anyway, personally. You know what I'm saying? They are kind of bigots, and they don't like them. And so, but if they can still do the same work of getting wages down, then they'll say, yeah, it's worth it.
See, in a way, I'm driving wages down. Like they're, the whole thing of moving up here into Maine and trying to work, cheaper. And then you get so much in my industry that I'm perfectly happy to be making half of that. And then the cost of living is at least half. So I'm, doing more than break even. There's a company down here. They only wanted entry level people. They call themselves, that just started down in Waterville. And it's a contracting firm that does, they call it rural outsourcing, right? Because, hey, we have people that'll work for cheaper than New York. And cheaper than Chicago, probably fucking cheaper than Detroit. So why not? And when I one of my jobs, I actually got, and it was for a Fortune 100 company, and I think I mentioned this before. And so I do corp to corp, right? So my corporation is, and there can be a middleman, and the middleman that got me, they sold the position, then hired me. They're an Indian outsourcing company. The reason I got to work remotely from Maine was because the Indians convinced them to let people work remotely from India. And then they're like, oh, okay, I guess you can work from Maine. So in a way, I mean, I'm in a position where I don't necessarily need them to cut off the HB1 visas to, I'm happy to make less money and get to live by the lake. And that's my plan. So I don't see that as benefiting me. On the other hand, it will. I'm a contractor, and if they can't HB1 visa, then even if he fucks over the economy, there'll be jobs because there's still going to be people, unless we get to the nuclear war level, that need programmers. And the HB1 visas, and also not just that, but it's pretty easy to work overseas, and just not be an HB1 visa, but just outsourcing, right? If he closes that at all. But I can't believe he's going to do that. This is the motherfucker that made his ties in China. He could have been making them in Maine like LL Bean. I mean, he's not going to close that shit down. I just don't see that happening. The HB1 visas either. Though I do see them possibly also doing something like you said, pretend to close the HB1 visas and use it to lower the, there's games like that.
I think he'd only close the fact that they overstay the visas, and so he'll go after those people. So they'll make a rationalization that, he still wants to get rid of the illegal ones. They have a legal visa and then they overstay it. There's lots of people that do that.
No, a lot of people, and I've known people because they don't track you down, and most countries don't. This is one thing that Snake Plisskenus was talking about because he got warned that he was about to overstay his visa and he didn't think it was a big deal in the UK, and they don't check your passport on the way out, and he found out, well, they do. But what can they do? Well, they just don't let you back in, because the thing is, it's really hard. All of your tourists, and there's kind of a right of privacy and freedom of movement that includes all the tourists in countries, in the traditional country. We weren't as paranoid as people think we might have been back in the day. You could travel to a country you were at war with even. So I don't think people really get how hard it is to track, because mostly they're going to be college students that decided to stay an extra month with their cousin or whatever, and it's just going to be a big waste of time. But the HB1 visas is another thing, because they're highly tracked already. They're not overstaying their visas. They're long-term visas. So but they have a quota of what they can do every year. So I'm pretty sure that he as president can affect that quota and lower it or raise it and things like that. So if you wanted to kind of shut the system off, I'm pretty sure he could shut the system off. And I'm just saying that's the part he's not going to do.
I don't think he's even argued to do that. Like I said, so he's really going after the lower wage immigrants. He's kind of pro bring people in who have skills. But my argument from
me too. I'd rather compete with those guys than compete with the people that stay in Bangladesh.
My argument to you is that I'm sort of against all of it, just because I think this whole idea of creating an economy that's dependent on growth is self-destructive, and that we need to create we
agree, but I think we disagree.
We can't fix it if we keep breaking it. So my point is you don't take on more problems when you're trying to solve a problem. Until we solve our problem, we shouldn't be complicating it by creating a higher infrastructure cost of dealing with immigrants.
The thing is, though, I agree with you, but we are so far away from the rest of the world on hey, you have to get a steady state economy. The growth economy won't work. Importing immigrants or outsourcing stuff, it's all just a part of being addicted to this growth economy. We need a sustainable economy. We need to find out what things can we do when it has to be sustainable. You know, when you actually have to keep paying the people to keep doing it, and you can't just find people that are poorer than the last ones you paid. The problem is, though, you know, you can't just jump to that. You know what I mean? You can't just jump from, you have a human biology and you need to have a Vulcan one. So just become Vulcan.
No, I know, but I mean, obviously, you have to take the first step before you can take the 10th step, and we're not taking any steps in the right direction. So I'm just saying we have to at least start walking in the right direction.
Well, yeah, but see, that's where we disagree again, too. See, I think you can bring back some manufacturing. Well, not that you can, that it could really happen the way things are going, but in principle, you could have more manufacturing jobs here. In principle, you can have a higher minimum wage, and that's where we disagree.
Right, you're going to do that, though, is exactly what I'm saying, though, is you're going to do that once you fix the system to make it self-sustaining, where we do a certain amount of farming internally, where we do a certain amount of production internally.
So are you saying you know the first step, so you have a whole cycle to fix. I have to say, I don't know where in the cycle you could get away with starting and let it ripple. You have an idea?
The start, I think, would be to start the nonprofits, get some of the wealth out of the 1% hands. You got to migrate the economy back into the people's hands, not the 1%. The 1% are moving all the cash. Everything's through a rental contract. So every exchange you make with somebody, the rich man is also in those exchanges. So I'm just saying you have to get him. You got to get these middlemen out of the exchange, and the contracts have to be more profitable for the individuals who are actually doing the work. Less money to the rich, more money to the workers.
So you start with that new model.
Yeah, well,
we need some of the money centers, even if it's just a little township. We need some of the money centers to seed that.
I don't think we need any of that. We don't need.
Well, someone has to seed that. They've taken all our money.
No, we're a fucking. Oh, you make me so angry. Who has to seed it? We're the United States of America. We can print $1 trillion bills.
No, but they're not going to help us. I'm talking you and me. You might have a little bit of money. I sometimes do.
I'm not talking about you and me. I'm talking about the United States of America.
But we went around this a couple times and I'm confused, but are you saying that the government should seed these not-for-profits somehow?
Of course. That's the easiest way to do it.
And so politically, I agree. And so I would say maybe a small townships or something. It only takes $500,000 or $1 million to start a business.
I don't care where we the people do it. I don't care whether they do it in a county or...
No, but I'm saying, how do we get to that mindset where they do that? That sounds so socialist to those guys. You know, how would or you don't know that part, or do you have a guess on how we...
No, I'm just saying that we tell them or we kill them. I'm just saying that's the kind of thing where we got to fix it.
I think right now we should start talking about these kind of businesses so people at least are exposed to the idea, and maybe it catches on that this is even a possibility. That we can compete with them on their own terms, not steal anything, we should raise their taxes, but it's
earned economy. Yeah, well, how can they fight earning? Earning versus inheritance.
That's a good term. Let's remember that. Earned economy. I like that.
Earned instead of fucking inherited. I mean, how the fuck could anybody...
I think that's a good rhetoric. Those are good, like a new Gingrich power word there for the left. Earned economy, or earned especially.
Yeah, well, I called it
anyway.
I called it fair economics back in the day, but anyway.
That's right. Is that the name of your channel?
Yeah, well, one of them.
Right, yeah. No, I think that's good too, but the word fair is loaded now because it's the same thing like snowflakes and feelings. They've loaded them, they've successfully loaded that kind of thing.
It's not a great hashtag anymore.
However, earned is right in the heart. How are they gonna, they can't fuck with the word earned, because they're all about earned, and they think Trump earned, and so it's a good point. Yeah, it's a good point.
With merit economy.
And by point, I mean point of a sword.
Yeah, it's one of their words. Merit economy would work also, because they were big on merit pay, you know. So, but okay. Anyway,
cheers. I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
Nice talking to you. I mean, you fucking asshole. You're a big asshole. You're tired.
Irritating and all that crap and blah 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 blah. Whatever.
Fucking New Jersey. No. Cheers.
We'll do some nuclear tests.
I did like the last one of these we did. We had a nice series of insults. I found it very entertaining and cathartic.
Yeah,
So
it does help.
we pull that off. All right, take it easy, Gary. Thanks.
Yeah, stupid shithead.